Hi, I'm Ashlee and today we are making sugar cookies. I'm not only sharing the recipe for the cookies and the frosting, but also some tips and some tricks for some fun different frosting techniques. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of our holiday videos, and let's get started. First, we're gonna mix our dry ingredients. I have flour, baking soda, salt, baking powder, and nutmeg. First, we're gonna cream the butter and the sugar. Now we're gonna add an egg, add some vanilla, and the secret ingredient, sour cream. Now, I know it sounds a little bit weird, but trust me, it's delicious. And now we're gonna add our dry ingredients. Now we're gonna take a quarter of our dough and wrap it up in some wax paper and stick it in the fridge for 4 to 8 hours. The dough is chilled, it's time to roll it out. Now there are two ways you can roll out dough. The first way, sprinkle on flour, roll it out, flip it over, keep sprinkling flour, roll, flour, roll, flour, roll. It works great, it's time tested, everybody uses it. But the problem with it is you end up working a little bit of extra flour into your cookie, and personally, not a fan. And one of the negatives of the flour method is then when you knead it back together, you're adding in a bunch of flour to be kneaded in and re-rolled out. And you're gonna end up by, your second time kneading the dough with really tough cookies, and you just kind of have to throw the dough away. But I have a solution for that. In my method, you're gonna use 2 sheets of parchment paper, and you're gonna put your dough in between the two. And then by rolling it out between the parchment paper, you're not gonna get any sticking to the counter, just like with flour. But you're also not gonna get any flour worked into this, and then you can reuse the dough as many times as you want. And again, then you just start cutting. Now the sugar cookies are baked and it's time to talk about frostings. So some people just sprinkle sugar crystals on their cookies before they bake and bake them that way. It's a great way to go. Some people like the thicker frostings that you just spread with a knife, like a cream cheese frosting or an American buttercream frosting, and that's a great way to go too. But of course, during this time of year especially, the most popular way is to do a frosting that you pipe and that, gets kind of hard and pretty. And of course, you can go all the way to the other side of this, from the frost softings to the incredibly hard frostings, and go with a royal icing like I did in the chalkboard cookies. The reason that I did that is I did want a rock hard frosting that I could write on. And if you're shipping or something like that, you don't want something that's gonna get squished or collapsed. So this frosting is in between. It's pipeable, it's gonna get a nice beautiful crust on it. You can touch it without a problem, but if you, push into it, it will break. So, but it tastes a lot better and is not rock hard like royal icing. So like I said, it's in between the two camps. It's what I've used my whole life. It's my favorite go-to, and it's super easy, so hard to go wrong with. So we're gonna start with a pound of powdered sugar, a 1/4 cup of milk, and keep the milk out because we're gonna use more a little bit later. We're gonna use vanilla and any other flavoring that you want. I always go with peppermint. There's something about peppermint this time of year, it's just perfect. Now we're gonna also go with some butter and finally some corn syrup. Now this is the one change that I made since I got this recipe as a child from, my mom. And that is that her recipe calls for all butter. I've also tried all corn syrup. Some people claim that the all corn syrup version helps stay a little shinier and can get a little bit harder without getting rock hard. I don't know that I noticed too much of a difference, but I have decided that I like splitting them. I like doing half butter and half corn syrup. So give it a try. If you want, you can use 4 tablespoons of butter or 4 tablespoons of corn syrup. Totally up to you and your preference. And now we're just gonna beat it. So this is the first stage of this. It's super thick. This is a great stage if you have young children who want to decorate cookies but don't really want to decorate with the frosting. They want to decorate more on the sprinkle side. This is thick, it's spreadable. You can color it, spread it with little knives, and let the kids top it with a gallon of sprinkles and eat it, and they will be perfectly happy. Now we're gonna thin it a little bit because we obviously want to go more on the adult decorating side. And we're actually going for 2 consistencies here. We're going for a thicker consistency that we're gonna pipe around the outside, and it's gonna kind of be our dam and hold the rest of our frosting. frosting in. And then we're gonna go for a thinner consistency that we call color flow, and that is when you pour it in and it smooths itself out and you get that great, smooth, shiny top to your cookies that then you can continue to decorate. So first thing we're gonna do is get it to that perfect thick stage and go from there. First of all, we're gonna get down to the thickness level that we want, and we're gonna do this by adding a tablespoon of milk at a time. Now, if you're close to the consistency that you want, try going with just a teaspoon at a time. Now, see how much smoother and glossier it is than it was before? This is looking perfect. So we're gonna divide it up and color it. Now, I like to use paste food colors or even powder. I don't like to use the grocery store stuff because it takes so much to get a nice, bright color. And then by that point, because they're so liquidy, you've added quite a bit of liquid and it actually thins down your frosting. But that's just my personal preference. If that's all that you have available to you, try keeping your icing a little bit thicker before you add the color, just in case. And then obviously you can always thin it down with milk. It's just harder to go back thick again. Now you can just fill your piping bag with your frosting and just cut off the very, very tip. It will, as you squeeze, kind of round out. But because of the seam on one side of your bag, you will never be perfectly round. I'm going to use a frosting tip. And I'm only going to take about 1/3 of the frosting at this point. Squeeze it on down, and I'm going to do that for all the colors, and then we're going to thin this out. At this point, because there's such little batches left, I'm not going to add a tablespoon of milk to each of these. I'm actually going to start with 1/4 teaspoon and go from there. This is how you know if it's the perfect color flow. After it's all mixed up, you take a big bunch of it and drip it on top and then start counting to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, that looks good. To do the outline, I like to hold my tip a little bit above the cookie and let the frosting fall into place. I feel like I get a much smoother outline that way versus if I'm super close. If I shake it all and it's falling, it still kind of smooths itself out during the movement as you go around. But if you're super close, any little movement that you make will kind of cause problems. Like if I accidentally bounce or get too close, you can see that that's not nearly as smooth as the one where I let the gravity do the work for me. You always want to touch at the beginning and touch at the end. And if you're doing something with sharp corners, you kind of touch at each corner to give yourself better corners. But for rounded things, just stay up and above the whole time and let it fall into place. A lot of times the outline is just the outside of the cookie, but sometimes you're going for more detail. And your outline will then go through the middle of the cookie. And again, you want to make sure that you stop every time and touch. So now we're using our thinner frosting, and as you can see, I just kind of pipe it in and it starts to spread itself into place. If you get any bubbles, you can take a toothpick, another sharp tool, or if you have a corner where the frosting doesn't spread all the way, and you can help it along. You want to do this while it's still wet. You want to fill it in enough that it kind of bubbles up to the edge of the outlines that you've created, but you don't want to bubble so much that it ends up spilling outside of that. Now, if you layer one color flow on top of another color flow while they're both still wet, they'll sink and they'll even out. And look, you will have a seamless look between the two. The other thing you can do is take 2 different colors. You can do stripes or circles or kind of anything you want. Then you can stripe them with a toothpick or another sharp tool. And that creates a really fun effect as well. If you're gonna add anything to your cookies that you want to stick, you also want to do it while it's wet. So I have some silver and gold degrees that are gonna be like our little ornaments. Now, while I recommend using a tip for the outline, I can go either way for the color flow. It's kind of up to you. Sometimes I like using a really small tip so I can get into crevices if I'm doing really detailed cookies. If I'm swapping colors a lot though, it's easier just to cut a little bit of the tip off. And of course, one of the last techniques is to wait until your color flow dries and then add some more frosting to the top of it. What that will do is give it a 3D effect, as that will sit on top. Now you can either use the color flow to create that 3D effect and it will kind of be a soft bubble, or of course you can always go back to using your thicker outline frosting and then it will be more crisp. And that's it. That's a bunch of different techniques that you can use to make a bunch of really fun sugar cookies at home. This is something that's fun for the whole family. My kids look forward to this every year. We don't only make these for Christmas, we make them for every holiday. I think I probably have more cookie cutters than the store at this point. Our other favorite traditions are, of course, gingerbread houses, caramels, caramel and hot fudge sauce, Liege waffles for breakfast. I love this time of year. I love all the food. I love all the tradition. It's so much fun. So in the comments down below, let me know what is your favorite traditional thing that no matter what happens that year, you always make at Christmas. I want to hear it. So do you guys like cookie decorating?
Yeah.
Do you like cookie eating?
Yeah.
All right, let me get mine too. Happy holidays!
I was going to say happy Halloween.
Not happy Halloween.